Hello, and welcome to the Comic Conspiracy, episode 59 for this, is this Memorial Day weekend? Yeah.
Yep.
Labor Day weekend? Memorial Day? It's one of those things. Yeah. Memorial Day weekend, May 28th, 2012. We're here recording a little early than normal, so let's get this over with. My name is Ryan Higgins. I'm joined, as always, by my wonderful co-host.
Dennis. Oh, I mean Dennis. Rock Sager.
Dennis. Like from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, Dennis?
No.
Oh.
Dennis as in Monty Python Dennis.
Oh, that's right. He is Dennis the Peasant.
The Peasant.
From Monty Python. Okay. Come see the violence inherent in the system. Yes. And also joined by our wonderful other co-host.
Charlie West.
And no Omar, no Toby this week. They will be back next week for our amazingly going to be terrible all anime and manga episode. So make sure to skip that episode because it's probably going to be the worst one we've ever recorded. So
might even be the shortest one.
Just a heads up. Well, you get the least Brock out of that episode. So if you're a fan of No Brock, that'll be the episode for you.
I've watched some anime.
That's what I'm afraid of.
I can have an opinion.
I just figure we're going to end up talking about animes that are 10 years old mostly, and about how great they were.
10 years is being optimistic.
Yeah.
yeah. But hey, no, I'm excited for our anime secret origin because I think those are fun to talk about. So. But we'll discuss some other stuff as well. The main reason I wanted to talk about anime and manga, we were going to do it this week because this past weekend was Fanime it's an anime convention, fan-run anime convention over at the Santa Clara Convention Center. But I was kind of hoping Toby and Omar would also be here, but since they're not, we're just going to move everything to next week. And I just got back from Fanime, but we'll talk about that next week because it's more on topic.
Is it Santa Clara, not San Jose?
Or San Jose Convention Center. Did I say Santa Clara?
Yeah.
San Jose Convention Center. So just fun times. Big crowd. I mean, they had like 20,000 people, so it's a good convention.
Now I have a question. Were any scantily clad women turned away from this?
Turned away from it?
Mm-hmm. Like from the Detroit City Motor Convention where they painted top... Girls were told to leave the convention?
They wouldn't allow that, no. Especially with the amount of minors that are at a convention like that. Yeah, I mean, you can never paint yourself.
Well, even going into Comic-Con this past year, they told various people to go cover up and stuff going to that, too. It's becoming very commonplace.
Yeah, Fanime... Well, I want to talk about this more next week, but it is a very younger... It's a younger crowd than something like Comic-Con or a comic convention like WonderCon. So it would be wildly inappropriate if most of those people were either seeing people painted over or they themselves being painted over. Yeah. They could arrest, myself and half the other people there if they were like that.
Well, you should just be child porno for being there.
Child pornography. What's wrong with anime conventions? Anyway, okay, we'll talk about that next week. So we got a few things to discuss this week, but just kind of one of those quiet weeks. Not a lot of comic stuff going down. I know the one bigger news outside of regular comic books, but that's the Avengers still doing very, very well in the theater, but unfortunately not enough to beat the Men in Black themselves, which ironically enough, another Marvel movie. Yeah. So there you go. Because Men in Black was a comic book created by Malibu Comics, who are Marvel bought out in the mid-90s. So there you go. Is Men in Black a Disney movie? I guess it must be. Or was it licensed out to someone? I actually don't know who does Men in Black.
I'm guessing it was licensed out to somebody because I don't remember that series being Disney at all.
Yeah. No. Yeah,
Disney might have a little blurb on it.
I think it might even be Warner Brothers, but I don't know.
Yeah, I have no idea who does Men in Black, but that's okay. First one was cool. Second one was all right. I have no interest in seeing the new one, so whatever.
For me, like most things like this, Netflix is wonderful. If I just wait long enough, it will magically appear on Netflix and I can watch it. Yeah,
nothing that needs to go to the theater, and so.
Well, my girlfriend and I went and saw it this weekend. Avengers again. Well, I saw it again. She finally saw it for the first time. She liked
After paying for it twice.
Yeah,
sure.
No, thanks. But yeah, no, she really enjoyed it. She was like, let's go watch What to Expect When Expecting. I'm like, why? We already know. It's it's a comedy. Why would you watch that in the theater? But Men in Black, whatever.
I mean, I see comedies in the theater sometimes, but I usually try to stick with the big action movies. But Avengers, let's see, Box Office Mojo reporting the 4-day weekend, the superhero team eased 16% to an estimated $46.9 million. The 3-day gross was $36.8 million, so they included today in that, which is the second highest fourth weekend ever. Right behind Avatar is 50.3 million. So, it's on par with Avatar this far in.
Yeah.
On Saturday, the movie set a new record by crossing the 500 million mark in just 23 days. Through Monday, the Avengers has earned 523.6 million and will pass Dark Knight, which is 533.3 million, probably by Friday, to move into third place, all-time domestic charts. And then it will sit there and never surpass Titanic and Avatar because people are crazy and think James Cameron makes good movies.
Aliens 2 was good.
In the last 20 years. So, there you go.
Has it been 20 years for Aliens 2?
Aliens 2 would have
I would
been...
think it would have to be.
80... When was that? 84? Is that right? 84?
Because the first one 70.
Well, it's not 79. It's not Aliens 2. It's
I know,
Aliens.
it's Aliens,
Yeah.
but the second Alien film.
When was Aliens? Aliens
Because I'm excited for Prometheus.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I
Prometheus
know.
looks so good. Aliens is not...
Oh, I know you're excited.
Oh, yes. I am definitely excited.
I'm lukewarm.
About Prometheus?
I'm interested to see it, but I've never been a big fan of any of the Aliens movies. I've enjoyed them, but I've never had the desire to own any of them.
Aliens is 1986, once again, confirming the fact that every great thing in the history of the world happened in 1986. Because apparently, if you have to guess when something happened in the 80s, just guess 86, because that's when everything else happened, too. So, yeah.
Wasn't Back to the Future 85?
I'm not sure. I don't remember. I'm terrible with years and release dates and stuff. How are you not excited for Prometheus? Have you seen these trailers? Starting to get back to this.
Well, no, I agree. The trailers and everything else look exciting. I'm very interested to see it. But for me, it's all about Dark Knight Rises. It's all about Avengers. I mean,
that's given.
I'd even say I'm more excited for the new Spider-Man movie than Prometheus. So
nowhere. I mean, Dark Knight is the high bar. Prometheus is probably number 2. Yeah, Spider-Man's up there, but
as I said, for me though, not being a huge fan of that particular franchise, I'm really interested because of the people involved in it. I'm very interested because it looks cool.
Yeah.
But no Aliens franchise movie has ever got me excited to go see it in the theater. In fact, I think the only one I saw in the theater was the Joss Whedon one. So,
but I think the reason this is not an Alien movie, I mean, maybe it is. I don't want to know spoilers. I'm trying to stay away from everything. I'm sure people already know that the alien cameo is at the end or something stupid, and I'm sure it's going to happen. I just don't want to know. I don't know anything. I'm not watching any more trailers, always.
Wait a second. Joss Whedon did the fourth one?
Yeah, he wrote it. He wrote the script.
Oh, he wrote the script?
He wrote the script.
Oh, okay. Because I didn't like that one.
Well, I'm not saying you should. I'm just saying I think that's the only one I technically ever saw in the theater.
I never even saw Alien vs. Predator. So Alien is, for me, I mean, just one of the best movies that have been made. I mean, it's a classic in both horror and science fiction. It is a fantastic movie. Everyone should see it. Alien 2 is wonderful. I love Alien. Or Alien 2. You got me saying Alien 2. Aliens. Aliens is a fantastic movie. I love Aliens. But it's a different type of movie. It is an action movie over a horror movie or a suspense. Alien 3, I don't hate. People seem to really hate on Alien 3.
I don't hate Alien 3 either. I mean, I remember being a kid and seeing advertisements on TV, and it's just Sigourney Weaver sitting there, and it says, "The bitch is back," and the alien head pops into the frame, and you're like, ooh.
Yeah, Alien 3, I think, is maybe a little underrated.
The director's cut's really good.
I haven't seen that. I've just seen the regular version.
Yeah, the director's cut's really good because it extends out a little bit more of that prison world.
Okay.
And you get to see a little bit extra on some of the character interactions and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
But Alien Resurrection?
Yeah, Alien 4.
I mean, I saw it. It's not terrible.
It has moments where it's okay, but I think it's like Winona Ryder really kind of ruins the movie just with her acting in it, and there's a couple other things in it that were kind of about like the overall like what happens in the thing. But I mean, there were moments where it was a funny film and it was an action, had action and stuff in it.
Yeah, there's good parts, but I just overall, it kind of left me meh. And then Alien and Predator, or Aliens vs. Predator, I never saw. I mean, I heard they were mediocre at best, so I never even watched them. I'd like to, but just to see the action stuff. But I never even got around to seeing them.
I actually wonder if part of the reason I'm not more into that particular franchise is I don't remember when I finally sat down to watch those, but those are some of the movies that took me a very long time to finally go, okay, I'm going to finally watch the Aliens movies.
Okay.
So it may have even been until Aliens 3 or maybe even sometime between Aliens 3 and Aliens 4 that I finally sat down and watched those movies where I had already seen a lot of other sort of sci-fi, a lot of other horror, a lot of like, it's kind of weird to say this, but when you've seen a lot of stuff that is kind of going, okay, well, that really worked well in Alien, so I'm going to try and work it into my movie too. It might take away a little bit from the original, but I don't know. Just never was, you know me. If I love a franchise, I'm all about the franchise and supporting the franchise. That's just not my franchise.
Yeah, I think Prometheus is going to do something very different than... I don't think they're connecting it to Alien at all, at least publicly. So it'll be interesting if people catch on to that.
It might be kind of a Star Trek scenario where we're going to get introduced to alien, the alien world, but it's not the same.
Well, I mean, it takes place before Alien. It's supposed to be the corporation. I should never remember the name of
Wayland Industries.
Yeah,
I can't remember the Japanese name.
So they, it's going to be an origin sort of to some of the stuff in Alien, but whether it connects to it, I have no idea. Anyway, that's Prometheus. Prometheus is going to be great. And Avengers is still doing a ridiculous amount of money. And I'm waiting for that Blu-ray for Avengers.
Yeah.
I mean, are these specs confirmed, or is this sort of just what people are talking about? Because I know there's a four disc Blu-ray, bunch of new scenes, bunch of deleted stuff, maybe like 20, 30 minutes of new stuff, maybe something. It seems like a lot of stuff cut out.
I'm not sure how much has been confirmed, but I know in terms of movies like this recently, I wouldn't be surprised if you see a entry for it in the next previews, honestly. Just because...
Oh, you mean to buy?
Well, to order now. It's just, I've been noticing that...
It's coming soon. Oh, it's out in September, I think?
Well, no, but what I'm saying is all the specs are, if they're not confirmed now, should be confirmed any day now, just because solicitations are just around the corner for being able to order this movie various places. I'm sure if it's not on Amazon already, it will be on Amazon within 2 weeks.
Normally, at this point, stores are ordering the DVDs and Blu-rays around the time they go into the theater because the turnaround is so short these days. It's not like where we used to have to wait 6 months for movies to come out. I mean, now you're talking 2-3 months at max.
And that's why when you get into these kind of questions like, are these specs confirmed? Pretty much. I mean, they have all this stuff worked out. I mean... Sometimes, given the success in the theater, they may push it back a little, or they may even spend a little more money on producing the thing. But yeah, for a big blockbuster like this, I'm sure they were already planning on, okay, we're going to do this for the Blu-ray, we're going to do this for the DVD, we're going to... Yeah.
I'm just worried about if it has a September release, then there's going to be let's have a re-release for Christmas of something that has,
I get
a little
worried
bit more like they did it with Walking Dead.
I get worried about that when the initial release is very sparse, because they do that all the time. They'll rush out a 1-disc version with just the movie on it, or the movie and commentary, or just a really sparse release. And if they were doing that for Avengers, I can guarantee you we would see another type of release. But I kind of doubt that in this case, just because the initial release sort of comes across as more of a... We're going to cram all this into here now versus...
Well, didn't they do that with Avatar as well? Didn't Avatar have like a decent amount of like extra stuff to it?
But that's because the initial release wasn't the 3D release.
Okay.
So yes, they had a big special Uber 3D release that came out afterwards. But yeah.
Speaking of DVD releases, what are you guys picking up for John Carter?
I'll pick it up at some point.
Well, no, are you going to pick up the? There's 3 versions, right? There's
Disney's notorious for doing you can buy the DVD, or you can buy the Blu-ray DVD combo pack, or you can buy the 3D digital copy Blu-ray DVD combo pack.
Just a Blu-ray for me.
Okay.
See, for me, Disney is wonderful and horrible at the same time. And the reason for this is most of their movies they've been putting out, they tend to have a manufacturer rebate that's going to be limited in one form or another. Originally it was, okay, if you buy this on DVD, you save $5. So it becomes the same price as buying the DVD. So you might as well buy the Blu-ray DVD pack. And then they start pushing it for the 3D Blu-ray kind of thing. So it becomes the same price as a Blu-ray. So honestly, it may be cheaper for me to buy the 3D Blu-ray combo pack than buying the Blu-ray DVD combo pack, just based on that manufacturer coupon if there is one, which I don't know for that movie if there is one yet, but based on history, there probably will be.
Yeah, I'll just get the regular one. I normally just get the regular Blu-ray unless it's something like Avengers. If there's like a crazy super deluxe edition for something like Avengers or Dark Knight, I would. But other than that, I never really go crazy. And I don't get Blu-rays or DVDs for everything I see. I mean, just the stuff I really, really like. So something like Prometheus, I probably won't even pick up. I'll wait if they throw it in with a Alien box set, because I know there's the Alien quadrilogy.
Which I need to purchase.
Has finally gotten cheap.
Oh, has it?
Because when it first came out, it was so expensive when it first came out.
I'm about $10 a disc on the box set. So like Star Trek Blu-rays went about $50 for the box set, and I was like, that's my price point. Done.
Pretty sure you can get Aliens for $10 or less for the box set.
I saw it for $52.99.
Oh. Yeah, no. If it gets to like $30, $35, then I'll check.
But you're getting 9 different discs.
You're gonna get. I'll check after the podcast because I know I've seen it various sources. It may even be on sale right now at Fry's, just because they did their Memorial Day big anniversary bonanza on a bunch of.
I have the DVD of that. I need to upgrade that one.
Well, I know like all the individual movies right now are at like Best Buy at like $10 a piece on Blu-ray.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to some actual physical comic book talk for a second. No more Charlie's Blu-ray deep discount discussion.
Well, that's the next podcast, right?
Yeah, where to get Blu-rays cheap via Charlie. This past week, there was an interesting kind of press release came out from the officially labeled as a hate group, 1 Million Moms. Brock thinks that's funny for some reason. There is a group. This is a group of Christian conservative. As a nonprofit organization that promotes conservative Christian values, such as the opposition to same-sex marriage, pornography, and abortion, as well as other public policy goals, such as blah 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 blah. Okay, so these guys unsuccessfully boycotted Archie a handful of months back during. When they introduced Kevin Keller, their gay character that they introduced in Archie. They've now focused on Marvel and DC.
I wonder why.
Marvel had their announcement that they were having a gay character, North Star, get married. He proposed this past week to his longtime boyfriend, Kyle, I believe it is. We've also had DC, which we could talk about this. We talked about this actually a handful last week, that there was a character that they were going to reintroduce into the DC universe that they're going to reintroduce as homosexual. And there was a lot of speculation back and forth on who it was going to be. I know Brock had mentioned some of the Earth 2 characters, either Alan Scott or...
kind of like, I was leaning towards Alan Scott.
A lot of people have now taken that ball. A lot of people have kind of championed behind Alan Scott being a character it's very possible that this could, considering his real introduction to the Earth 2 title, should be in the June issue. DC said it's a male, it's a hero. He's going to be introduced in June. For one of their kind of event things, and that fits that Alan Scott would. Alan Scott, for those that don't know, is the very original Green Lantern from the late 1930s, who was in Justice Society of America. Like Hal Jordan, the more recent Green Lanterns were the late 50s, right? Reimagining kind of the way they did with Barry Allen and the Flash. Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman pretty much kept going, but a lot of their characters they reimagined and did new takes on, including the Justice League, and Alan Scott was the original Green Lantern. So,
which when I first kind of heard that as the possibility, I kind of didn't recoil from it as much as I do kind of now, just because the more my mind kind of thought about it, the more, at least you look at the Jeff Johns run in the JSA book and that kind of stuff, he's totally a family man. I mean,
Sure. But I mean, this is a reboot.
It's a little weird.
It's not the same character, and I think that's the...
I know.
Yeah.
It's just a little weird, because in a way, I would kind of say his family's kind of like the Fantastic Four kind of family between sort of Marvel and DC, because
what's interesting with Alan Scott, when they brought him into the main DC universe, and they worked in a lot of these trappings of the 70s and into like what was previously the current DC universe. He had a daughter, Jade, who became a Green Lantern for a short time. He had a son, Obsidian, who in the Manhunter series, published a handful of years ago by Mark Andricchio, they revealed that he was homosexual. So having Alan Scott he actually was a villain for a while, but then he kind of came back and he kind of got over that villain thing. So having Alan Scott be gay in this new Earth 2 book, which is like, again, for those who don't know, they're relaunching the Justice Society in kind of a modern day after the death of Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman and that. So they're kind of new heroes. Getting rid of or changing Jade and Obsidian's origin, or doing something different with it, whether they're adopted, whether they're not existed at all, who knows? It's fine with me. I mean, the thing is, they mentioned it was an iconic character, and Green Lantern definitely is, but it's not Hal Jordan, right? I mean, It's not the Green Lantern the people, or John Stewart, or someone who the average person may know more.
As a Elseworld story, and I mean, to a degree, Earth 2 is an Elseworld story. I'm not saying it isn't. It's sort of like the same way I had problems with the way they changed Superman. It's not that I have a problem with Superman stories with him, with those changes. It's just the fact that I don't have the sort of more classic version of Superman I'm used to out there right now. I mean, when you change sort of the core books these characters are in...
But that's the point, right? These characters were clearly not working in any sort of sales-wise fashion prior to the relaunch. Not that Superman's doing a whole hell of a lot better. I mean, it is doing better, but it's not doing fantastic. But they are trying something different with these characters.
And I acknowledge why they're doing it. It's just, as sort of the fanboy in me, the longtime reader of comics in me, I don't even care if you have them doing this in the main book. I just kind of wish they might have one issue similar to like DC Universe Presents that can kind of go through a different Earth, one sort of closer to what they left behind. Just give me one book where you can tell sort of more classic Superman stories, or more classic JSA stories.
The thing with that is, that's every back issue.
Yeah.
They're not going to do that. And that's the point of the new universe, is that they're not going back to their classic versions there. Because if they were, why do the new 52?
Because there's still people like me who wouldn't mind new stories with those classic versions.
Oh, there are plenty of people that wouldn't mind that, but what I'm saying is you kind of got to go all in, or there's no point. And so having Earth 2 be a dramatically different yet still similar version of what they were doing before with the Earth 2 concept, prior to Crisis on Infinite Earths, where Earth 1 and Earth 2 were separate things, where the JSA and JLA were not on the same planet, or not on the same universe. So, I mean, it is a way, in a fashion, the original concept. They're just changing the characters in the concept. So, I did notice...
Don't get me wrong. I really like the Earth 2 book, and I actually really like some of the changes they've made. It's just... I also like the original JSA.
Sure.
So.
Well, to me, and we talked about this a lot when this was coming up, I know me and Brock talked about this a whole lot. Once they said they were relaunching and rebooting, to me, cool, anything goes. You want to kill characters or change them or make them different or do whatever, you've already changed the universe. So at this point, the old Alan Scott's still there, right? The pre-Crisis version still exists. The after-Crisis Earth, New 52 or pre-New 52 version is still there. Those
so we're
comics.
getting into the Star Trek conversation now.
Well, sure. Those things are still there. They haven't gone anywhere, and there's no reason that they can't. I mean, it's fiction. They can always go, and the universe is back, and everything's back to the way it was. So
I know.
yeah,
And the whole thing with the multiverse, and I guess this is kind of where I was going with just the potential for still having a version of Superman out there who's closer to the original, or JSA that's closer to the original. All that, they have a multiverse out there where they can make whatever tweaks they want to. And I mean, in some ways, that's kind of what's got me excited, is just because I love the multiverse of DC. I think that inclusion has always produced some of the best stories, just being able to play around with the multiverse with different versions of characters, different things. So,
well, here's a question for you. If they, in a couple years, went, hey, guess what? This has been Earth 53 all along, and now we're going back. Does that make it, like, would that be good? Would that be bad? Would you be like, what was the point? Or would you be happy because you're getting the old versions back? Like I'm not trying to, like, I'm just playing devil's advocate here, because to me, I know where you're coming from.
One thing, are we going back to legacy numbering at this point? Or?
Well, I guess for me, the thing is I personally don't care if they do that or don't do that to a degree, because as I was sort of talking earlier today, I'm all about the story. I like art. I can definitely go to something and go, wow, Kingdom Come had some of the best art and the best story I've ever seen, and some of the stuff that I suggest the strongest have both, but I can't buy a book that's just pretty with a crappy story versus I can buy a book with a great story where the art isn't up to par. It's just the way I read and stuff.
Sure.
I'm much stronger in terms of the story. So
I'm in your same boat.
So as long as I'm still enjoying stuff like the Earth 2 book or a lot of these stories, it's never really a waste of time to me. As long as you're producing good stories going back, again, it doesn't really bother me as long as you're producing good stories.
Right.
And realistically speaking, this is comic books, and I would be willing to put money down that within the next 10 years, we're going to see a weird amalgamation between the old and the new, taking what worked here and what worked there and shaking things up a little bit again.
And they've done that constantly throughout the years.
Exactly,
so.
And that's why any changes they make now, it's really a question of if this works, they'll keep going with it. If it doesn't, then they won't. And
well, I think for you, Charlie, especially, it falls under the category of, like, with Green Lantern, when the New 52 came out, there wasn't really much of a change. No. I mean, we kind of just stepped over the line and we're going with it. Whereas other characters other stories you really enjoy, like the JSA and all these other characters, you were jarred because there wasn't anything. Yeah. And now that we're getting back into them, they're taking those, and it's no longer that, oh, we're just stepping over the line. It's that, yeah, we're changing all this stuff up, and we're going to move all these things around, and you're going to get this new experience with these characters when you've kind of lost something with, no longer having the Superman kind of as the Superman but having a Green Lantern that's carried through. So
well, but even then, I'm not saying that all the reimagining is bad. I think there's definitely examples out there where the reimagining was necessary. And one of the things that I find kind of interesting, just bringing up the whole sales numbers sort of point of view of this, it's like Batwoman. Batwoman didn't change at all, but launching with the New 52 the way they did and everything definitely improved the sales of Batwoman. I don't have the same level of understanding of sort of the history of Animal Man, but I get the impression while this is a different take on it, especially with the red,
not really all that different. I mean, this really plays up with the Grant Morrison version, so it's not, and with the Vertigo After series, so it's not totally out of left field.
That's kind of where I'm kind of coming from. I kind of get the impression where some of this is new to a lot of people like myself, but the New 52 gave it a chance to really highlight these books now versus before, because they weren't part of this big push. So I think it's sort of interesting to me that a lot of the sort of top sellers in a way are still recognizable to what those books were. I'm not saying that stuff like Batgirl, which is also doing really good and is a really good series, I really enjoy it, it's still kind of recognizable to everything they had done with the Barbara character, because she had been in the wheelchair, and now this is a story with her getting out of the wheelchair. So I'm kind of curious to see how some of the more, like, Hawkman had a hugely drastic change, and I couldn't stand that book at first. And since Liefeld took over, I read the first issue, and I actually enjoyed the first issue. I could actually read it versus not the first issue, but the first Liefeld issue. Nice. But I couldn't handle the first, like, Hawkman, Hawk and Dove. There were just a small handful of books that I never made it past issue 1 on. I couldn't do it.
I'm sure most people's listeners are pretty much the same.
Yeah.
Well, to get back to this 1 million moms, these guys here. Sorry, it was
you were
massive.
talking, Ryan. You tweeted that you were sick of all the comments that people were making, like kind of the negative stuff on the forums and all that stuff.
Oh, I mean, a lot of people who are want to be much more traditionalist about their comic books. Let's call them the 1 million fanboys. They definitely the how to word this. The tone of their posts online were, how dare DC change this character to be gay, whether it's Alan Scott or not, whoever ends up being. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's this very, like, how dare you do this really offensive thing? But it's not offensive because he's gay. It's offensive because it's not the same. They were all... Every post was like that. It was really funny to watch. Just countless people being like, how dare you make this change in character for him to be gay? I'm not mad that he's gay. I'm just mad that they're changing it. But it's just so funny. And I mean, we've seen the almost the wannabe protests before the New 52 and all this bullshit that happened. And no one gives a fuck now. Everyone loves these books. No one's complaining anymore. Oh, sure, there's a few people still here and they're complaining, but they're going to be the same fanboys. That they're there, as I think I've mentioned this on podcasts before. A good friend of the store, Raphael, who actually went to Fanime with all weekend, had a great subject. I had a great line to call these guys the lampshade collectors. Mm-hmm. And I think I mentioned this before, but in case I haven't,
I don't know if you've mentioned it here.
There is a large fandom of comic book in the comic book community who don't actually buy the comic books. They like the iconic imagery. Mm-hmm. They like the Superman wastebaskets and the Wonder Woman, lampshades and the Spider-Man plushy dolls. They don't care what's actually happening in the comic books, though. And so for those people, the lampshade collectors, as we've dubbed them, they're the ones that are like, how dare you change this character that I've never actually supported and bought a book of and have never actually read a book about. But you're changing this thing that I have this iconic image in my mind. How dare you do this? Well, I can't get behind that.
It's one of those things where, like, I saw people complaining, like, well, what about Obsidian? What about Jade? And I'm like,
fair complaints.
I'm like, fair complaint, but I don't think it's out of this world possibility that a gay man has fathered children.
Sure, he could adopt them. I mean, there's a ton of stuff they could do with that.
So it's all these people that are coming out and the 1 million moms, or as I've dubbed them, the few thousand GCBs.
Well, that is one of the things with the 1 million moms. It's only a couple thousand people, and probably 3/4 of them are men. It's
well, and
not.
they're even connected to some big Christian. I can't remember. It's like some popular Christian movement.
Yeah, no, they're a large part of a Christian. I can't remember what it's called. Hold on, let me look.
They're like the Segway mom hater group of whatever the big parent is.
Yeah, it's the American Family Association.
Yeah, the American Family Association.
Yeah, and that's the one I was talking about at the beginning. Yeah, they're part of this much larger, hardcore conservative Christian.
But that's the thing is and also a couple. Dan Slott had tweeted when this first stuff started breaking last week that, well, what about Daredevil? He's deaf. Are we not supposed to show deaf people overcome in comic books for deaf people to look up to, and blind people, I should say. And then it's like you have all these different superheroes that have overcome some small thing. Mm-hmm. We're not supposed to have those, but we can have those, but we can't have the gays.
Sure.
Or gay. Sorry. Well, it's like,
sure.
It's like, how do you? It's like the gay issue. I mean, the gay.
Just stop. Stop before it gets worse. But no, I think it's a dumb. I'm sure all these groups do are promote the books across the country to millions of people who would never heard about this.
I
expect
the fact that you over-ordered is now okay because people are going to come in and buy it.
I mean, I didn't over-order, but I mean, I ordered, Earth 2 normally, and so maybe I should bump my numbers up because hopefully tons of people come in here now because they're going to boycott these comics. So.
Well, I'm actually thinking in a lot of cases I've also seen those who boycott the comic come in and buy the comic so they can show everybody why they're boycotting the comic.
Half the people that were like, I'm never going to pick up a new 52 book, they were in here 2 weeks later buying them all. Fans the worst.
Well, it's one of those things where it's getting stuck as a fan is kind of. You get stuck in kind of a time period or a vein of stories that you enjoy, as a fan, if you're following the books and stuff like that. But if you're a true fan, you're going to follow it, no matter where it goes. It's, like your New Warriors and My Outsiders and, Charlie's Cable.
But that's not even true, though, because I know Charlie's not going to pick up every Cable book, and the New Warriors, as much as I love them, I mean... It's like pulling teeth to get me to read one of their recent appearances, let alone buy it.
Is one of the newer way they've done it. I mean, if it's been drilled to the ground, it's how those titles have been drilled into the ground. Yeah, you're not going to do it. But where you're talking about something with the New 52 is like for me, it's like looking back. It's like I was kind of irritated. First off, because of the numbering, but second off, because I had just gotten back into. Like catching up to where these stories were getting to. And so for me, it was really jarring because as somebody just kind of getting back into the swing of things, now things are going to get changed.
But isn't that the perfect opportunity for you to get even more into it?
Well, but that's the thing is for me, there's so much to get into. I mean, if you just going off of 52 and Countdown and all the stuff that spun out from that I was interested in and that I was trying to pick up and trying to read. Like, I never got back to reading Johns' Flash stuff. I never got back to reading a lot. But I can go back and read that stuff. That's fine. But it's one of those things where it's jarring when that happens, especially to some fans who are just getting kind of restarted with it.
Yeah, I mean, I understand, but it just no comic book prior to 1986 counts. For
there you
DC.
go with the 1986 again.
Well, that's when Crisis happened. I can't help it. Right? No comic counts, but that doesn't stop Superman Action Comics #1 selling for $1.5 million. It doesn't stop these images and these stories from being retold and retold and retold. Just because they've changed the continuity does not make the old stories invalid.
No.
I know.
Yeah.
Alan Moore. I don't remember who originally quoted this, but he quoted the person who originally said this when they were talking about the Watchmen movie, as a famous author who had many of his books made into movies. And he had said, how do you feel about the movies destroying your books? And then Alan Moore was kind of using this in an example about Watchmen. He's like, well, my copy of Watchmen's right there. They didn't touch the movie didn't destroy the book. The book's still right there.
Yeah.
So these older books, like, I get the continuity. Continuity matters to me to a degree, and I don't want them to just like Superman can only fly underground, and he suddenly has black hair, or orange hair, and he's from a race of mole people or something. Okay. At that point, sure, I get you. That's ridiculous, but. Little changes, little tweaks, little upgrades, little updates, moving stuff around, homosexual, gay or not, whatever. I almost want them to make Batman or Superman gay because I want to sell 50,000 copies of those books to people that come in to flip out. Like, oh my God, they made Superman gay. Like, go if you're gonna do it, go crazy, I guess.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I think what it is it's
maybe it could be Superman. He's not married to Lois anymore. I mean, he's interested, but maybe he's just confused.
They've said it's not.
Yeah. DC has not commented in fashion.
No, they've said it's not Superman.
They have not. DC has not commented in any way.
Well, they've said it's somebody new. They're introducing new.
Yeah. Maybe this has been some Kal-El Superboy clone thing this whole time. We're getting the real Superman showing up finally.
Hey, maybe it's a Batman clone from that Morrison run that nobody understands, right?
Which one? Final Crisis?
Oh, yeah, something around that time period.
I understand it all. What do you need to know?
No, not on this. That would take too long.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I think it's great what DC's doing. I read I don't know, you probably didn't see it, and you probably don't even care, Ryan. The letter that the 1 million moms wanted you to send to DC and Marvel to protest for them. I actually read the letter. It's grammatically horrible. which that was probably grammatical. Who cares?
The thing they did is bad.
Yeah, this is too bad. I rewrote it as a non-concerned parent, and it's hilarious. You should check it out. It's on the blog.
I think I looked at it for a moment and went, I don't care about protesters.
Yeah. But, hey, if it sells more comic books, it sells more comic books.
Yeah, I mean, the stories, if it's a story they want to tell, that's cool. This is...
if it's a good story, it's cool.
And
if it's a horrible story, I will run away screaming.
To me, it's interesting because DC kind of got a little slack for this, or a little crap for this. I'm sorry, they didn't get any slack for this. Back in the day, when they introduced like Jaime Reyes as Blue Beetle, and they changed around some of the heritage of some of the characters, especially around Infinite Crisis, around that area. It's kind of like, it's a sort of forced mandate of getting this sort of, we have to be more diverse. And to a degree, I kind of get that if it's like, if you're forcing creators to change characters for purely PR reasons, I get
affirmative action reasons, right?
Sure, right, exactly.
Yeah.
I get that may not be in the best interest of both the readers and the creators because they're not really telling the story they want to tell. But if this is something the creator come up with, DC is like, we want to expand the heritage of our characters. We want to have not just straight white men being every character. If they want to change some stuff up and everyone's sort of in agreement and it works for the story, then I'm totally for it. If it is some sort of forced affirmative action where DC's
others in Aquaman would be a good example of that. I don't know if you're there yet though.
Where DC's coming down and being like, hey, you have to introduce a black character in every book. That's kind of weird to me. That feels fake and forced. So
it's kind of weird. But a lot of it, to me, really depends on the creator working on that book, just because sometimes, as you say, when they're forced to introduce characters with certain heritage, certain stereotypes come through more than the actual, what these people would be like.
And this is why I had such a hard time with the more recent Blue Beetle series, the couple they did. The whole, just inserting random Spanglish into all the... And people don't talk like that. It's dumb and kind of it's got that bad 70s Claremontian X-Men, Bose Maho, you have to insert some sort of catchphrase every line, and I don't like that. There's these are American characters, and if you want to introduce people that speak in foreign languages and they have the little little asterisks or whatever after the dialogue balloons, that's totally cool. I'm fine with that. I have no problem with that. But forcing these little catchphrases in other languages in to reaffirm the country of origin of the character or the native spoken language, to me that always feels dumb.
Yeah.
So we got a tweeter here.
Oh, tweeters.
At Smith Watch. Interesting. It's actually his name is Smith Watch. So Michael Smith. He's got a question here. His question is, what books do you guys consider to be overrated? I actually was kind of thinking about this as we were recording and looking around, and we try to be pretty positive on this podcast. I try not to sit here and just trash books. I could have poked fun of Charlie for reading a Rob Liefeld book and not caring about the art, but I won't because I'm a nice guy. Which is funny because I heard great things about Grifter, again co-written by Keith Giffen. Jesus, I'm looking at something that says Keith Giffen. Rob Liefeld. So I'm not going to give Charlie.
Is it Liefeld or is it Liefeld?
Liefeld. Yeah, as far as I know, it's Liefeld. But when it comes to overrated comics, I feel that's a question that I can't answer because I feel I'm the one, me personally at least, I agree with the overratedness of a lot of these books. I think there are a lot of fantastic comics. So someone sitting here, Brock probably would be like, Final Crisis is stupid.
I enjoyed Final Crisis. I didn't understand what was going on,
but I
enjoyed it, but I haven't gone back and reread it. So to me, I'm still stuck in I'm in this Grant Morrison Swiss cheese world of misunderstanding.
But I would actually counter with no one liked Final Crisis, so it's not overrated. I think comic books, as a general rule, it's rare. Fandom is so fickle, first of all, And since we're all kind of in the same, but I mean, I'm talking like American U.S. superheroes, mostly Marvel, DC. You get a little bit of Image, you get a little bit of Dark Horse and stuff like that. When it comes to like the more underground or independent stuff, I'm overrated to me is different. And when it comes to like the superhero stuff, I think I probably overrate a lot of these books in my mind, but I would not call them overrated, as I understand a lot of people don't enjoy these books or wouldn't consider them quote-unquote good. When it comes to the independent stuff, I honestly haven't read enough of the more higher-praised books to really get a good understanding of them. Stuff like, the new Craig Thompson book, Habibi, or like a lot of Love and Rockets, I've only read a few volumes of, or, some of the more like Jason or a lot of the European stuff. I honestly have not read enough to form opinions on those. What I've heard is great, and I want to check out what I want to hear. I know, Charlie, you just picked up Morning Glories, which you've heard a lot of good stuff about. I've heard a lot of good stuff about as well. And I'm sure it's as rated. I don't think it's overrated or underrated. I'm sure it's going to, I will like it. I got the first 2 volumes sitting in my house. I have to read these. I've been sitting here on these things forever. I need to get through it.
I've picked them up, read them, and recommended them already. Go on.
Yeah.
See, to me, a lot of it really comes down to to me personally, the Deadpool book is probably a little overrated based on how many different Deadpool titles there are. Doesn't mean I don't enjoy it.
But there's only one now.
Yeah.
Right.
But doesn't mean I don't enjoy it. Doesn't mean that I don't get a lot of fun reading it. But it doesn't really break the mold for me in any shape or form. But
Deadpool is not. I was going to say Deadpool is not a book that is rated high in a way that is overrated. It is a funny book that people enjoy, but I don't think people are going, oh, Deadpool is the greatest comic book written of the year. So that's why it's a hard question to answer, especially when it comes to the superhero stuff.
To me, that's kind of the point I was trying to make. To some people, Deadpool, that's the exact type of comic they want to read right now, and that's what they look forward to every month, and that's fine. Personally, it's something I definitely enjoy. It's just never really the top of my list of what I'm excited for. But that's a great thing about comics. There's always some different story that something I'm excited for is not necessarily going to be the same thing that you're excited for or Brock's excited for. It all changes.
I think you said it, Ryan, is that fanboys are fickle. I mean, in this industry. So it's like someone to say, Preacher's overrated. And then like most of the populace would just, beat the crap out of that person and throw them on the street. Or it's like, the current like AVX is overrated, the new 52 is overrated, or this is, it's so fickle. It's like one day one thing could be overrated, the next day it's not. So it's like, it's a hard question to answer because it's more of a individual kind of question. It's like, well, to you, what's overrated might not be overrated to me or to Charlie.
And that's going to happen with anything, but I think when it comes to your 3 major types of popular culture, which is music, movies, and books, novels, more specifically just, general fiction and novelization. I would say, I don't know, are people saying, this nonfiction book's overrated? Maybe, I don't know. So let's just say books in general. So movies, music, including television with movies, film, music, and books. No one, I don't think, I would be hard-pressed to think of anyone, is like, I just don't watch movies. Or I don't watch any movies or television. Or I don't read any books.
We know somebody who's pretty close.
Well, but what I'm saying is most of the population of the world does not read comic books. Most of the population of the world does watch movies and read novels and read books and listen to music. So you can say, sure, Lady Gaga is overrated because you have so many people that have rated this a top-tier talent, both in sales and in performance. But then you have a lot of people that are on the other side of that because you have so many people. When it comes to even a top-selling book like AVX, I don't think there's a person on Earth that's like, AVX is the pinnacle of comic books. I just don't think that's... I
think there's somebody out there.
I'd be really hard-pressed to find that.
I guess for me, the other thing is, if you're talking about stuff from a lot of this stuff, you can't really call overrated while it's going on. Because, right now, AVX is going on. People are excited for it.
That's a fair point.
You can't really tell if it's overrated till the excitement dies down and people kind of have that wow, that was great, or wow, that was crap.
Well,
or
90% of the stuff you forget about months after it's over. So,
but I mean, to me, I could definitely go through and kind of talk about how, personally, I think probably the House of M event was overrated. I liked parts of it, but it wasn't really a...
Well, did you like the main book?
I liked parts of the main book. There's aspects of it I really liked. There's aspects of it I didn't really like.
But again, it comes down to, I don't know that a top-selling book like House of M, when it came out, was, even after the fact, rated in the same way you would say, oh, that movie's overrated, or oh, that music is overrated. Because again, you're working on the stance that this is ongoing narrative fiction by a large cast of writers and artists, and so it kind of falls under this. It's hard to kind of fit into that. Now, I will think you can say there are creators that are overrated, but I think the books are harder because you're dealing with so many different things.
No, I think you hit it with the Lady Gaga thing. Is it's like you have take an artist like Lady Gaga, right? You take a similar artist, right? Same vocal tone, same range, all that stuff, whatever, who might not have as much, votes as Lady Gaga. Lady Gaga is technically, overrated for, if they're pumping out the same thing, she's overrated for what she's doing. It's kind of one of those similar things. Like you have a top tier writer and a top tier writer. One might be overrated for what they're pumping out versus the other one.
Yeah. Now when you going back to creators for a second, there is I would argue, maybe one of, if not the most important comic creators of all time, who I am not a large fan of. I appreciate the work. I respect him, but at the end of the day, he would not be on my top 10 or probably 25 list, or maybe even 50 list of artists, and that would be Jack Kirby. And Sacrilege, I'm sure, I'm going to 20.
Oh, the forums are going to blow up.
20 fans
Episode 59 is going to be
scream at me for that. But
I love Jack Kirby.
No,
I just want to go on the record.
Sure, and that's
I haven't read enough.
That's fair. I think there were better artists at the time. I can't say what he did wasn't very influential and what he did wasn't good for what it was. But and he was a very creative person. I'm never going to say he's not. But I've never been a fan of his style to the degree that I am fans of other people's styles. I'm not saying he's bad. He's not bad. He is just not my favorite of the time, let alone when you move into a more modern-day setting. If I was to take every artist from the time, he would be in my top 10 list, but he wouldn't be number one. I'm not sure who would be number one. I actually think, and here's a case of underrated, I think a lot of the DC artists at the time get a case of people saying, oh, they were static in a house art. But if you go back, I think I'll have to get the list. There was a few artists particularly that I really liked. I think they're really underrated. I think Jack Kirby gets a lot of credit for evolving the art form. He did it in like a Michael Bay sort of way, where it's about the action over the style.
So I guess a contemporary for this time would be John Romita Jr.
Well, John Romita Jr. is a Kirby clone. But he's not evolving the art style. There's no Kirby.
But
doesn't have.
He would be an example of what you're talking about, overrated for our time. Where I think a lot of people. I can't stand it, but a lot of people.
I think he's rated high by older fans, but definitely not a lot of modern fans. Yeah. So I would not say John Romita Jr. is overrated. But again, and Grant Morrison is I will totally.
Oh, you overrate the shit out of that.
Oh, and I will totally agree that I will completely understand why anyone says Grant Morrison is overrated. I would say you are totally correct. I overrate the hell out of him because every book he does is the greatest book that's ever been published, and so I am the reason that he is overrated. But I love everything he has ever done. And Neil Gaiman, Jeff Johns. I would not disagree if someone goes, "Oh, Neil Gaiman, he One Trick Pony, overrated." Okay, I'm not going to disagree with you.
No,
I don't think he is, but I understand where people are coming from.
I'm glad you used that example and not Jeff Johns, or then we would have started a longer discussion.
But every creator, regardless of what you do, every creator is a one-trick pony at the end of the day. I mean, most of these guys, when artists or writers, they have a style and they stick with it. It's rare that someone can break multiple molds. I mean, you may have, especially when it comes to like the Marvel and DC stuff. I mean, you kind of get guys like Brian K. Vaughan, who was able to kind of wear a few hats and do a few different things, but you can still kind of pick him out. The independent scene is where people can really stretch and do some really interesting things. But it's, again, I think a lot of those guys fall into similar trappings. It's just a style that everyone creates a style for themselves.
It's kind of weird talking about Jack Kirby because most people definitely sort of fixate on him as an artist. I'm not saying the art wasn't good, but I'm just kind of thinking about it. I'm like, most of the reasons I'm a huge Jack Kirby fan tend to be the stuff that he contributed a lot towards the story as well, like The Fourth World. And
well, he is an idea man.
Yeah.
He is an artist first, but definitely an idea man second. Yeah. And I mean, he created a large portion of the Marvel Universe with Stan Lee, and he obviously did all the Fourth World stuff. And so Jack Kirby, his influence cannot be measured. I'm just saying I'm not a fan of his art style.
I'm just saying I think part of the reason I might be such a big fan is because of the idea man aspect of him more than his art style.
Sure. Totally agree.
Is interesting.
All right.
I really thought about that.
Yeah, we're all overrated. Let's move on.
Yeah. This podcast is overrated.
Exactly.
Just because I got a really quick last minute tweet here, we're going to wrap up, but I thought I'd read this real quick. It's from Windy City Gamer, who real quick asked, "Is the Hulk any good again? As in story, not complicated mess of stupidity like Planet Hulk and World War Hulk. Disgusted after Red Hulk." I'm just going to say the Incredible Hulk book is retardedly nuts. If you want to see Dr. Doom wielding an adamantium chainsaw cutting open the Hulk's head, go right ahead. I can't say it's bad, because at that point you're just talking that's awesome and nothing will ever beat that. But the book is weird. I can't figure it out. Hulk, like Red Hulk, just the book called Hulk, which is the Red Hulk is the main character of, I haven't read since Jeff Loeb left. I imagine it's Jeff Parker. Funny enough, a writer who apparently everyone loves, that I don't hate his work. I just hate every character he's ever written. So, again, maybe overrated in my mind. Thunderbolts, no interest. Red Hulk, no interest. Agents of Atlas, no interest. Get this guy on Avengers and then I'll read it. But I have no interest in any book this guy's ever written.
I read Jeff Parker's Agent of Atlas, and it wasn't bad stuff. I enjoyed it for the most part. His Red Hulk stuff, I think I survived through the Fall of the Hulks. Is as far as I got. I couldn't get anywhere past.
I'm probably the most current, not on the Red Hulk book. There's so many reasons why I'm not really into the Red Hulk, but
I'm current on Incredible Hulk.
But in terms of Green Hulk, Incredible Hulk, I find the book very jarring even still.
Well, you don't like 9 artists on one title? Per issue?
It's kind of this sort of there's aspects of it I like, and there's aspects of it where I'm like, it is kind of weird in the way that a lot of the people that I kind of held up on this pedestal to a degree have become more and more dicks in the Marvel Universe.
Well, Bruce Banner now in the Incredible Hulk book is Dr. Moreau.
Yes.
So he has been the piece of the Hulk's brain that controls Banner, or however you want to flip-flop that, has been physically taken out of the Hulk's head by a Dr. Doom wielding adamantium chainsaw, by the way.
Yes.
Man, that's an interesting lobotomy.
Which is fantastic. That panel alone, that panel will have to be our art for this issue. For this episode. That's a great panel. I'll see if I can find it. I don't. Maybe this is why the Hulk isn't in any other title right now and not part of AVX or anything, because people were like, "What the fuck is going on over there?" I have no idea. Let's just ignore Green Hulk for now. He'll show up eventually once we fix this.
I'm really curious to see, because they just pretty much finished the first story arc and now they're starting the second one. That I'm actually very curious the way the last issue ended, because it could get very interesting from here, or it could get very weird from here, and I'm sure it's going to be a combination of both. But I mean, all that being said, the thing that kind of weirds me out about this is it's sort of like for most of the stuff after, well, even before House of M, but there was this sort of like span of maybe 12 years now or so that a large portion of the X-title books kind of made Xavier out to be more and more a dick in sort of what he did over the years.
Here's the picture of Dr. Doom and his chainsaw.
And then, like, now I kind of feel the same way with the Incredible Hulk and Bruce Banner, that they're kind of making it seem like Banner was actually the one out of control all this time, and in a weird way, the Hulk was keeping him, like, they pretty much have said that Banner was a real monster all this time, and the Hulk was keeping him in check instead of the other way around. And while that's an interesting concept, that's never been my interpretation of Banner in any book.
Well, I remember the last stuff I really read was the Red Hulk stuff and the Fall of the Hulks, and all that stuff kind of. I remember Banner was trying to train his son to kill him.
Yeah, and again, that kind of made sense to me with sort of the self-hatred thing with the Hulk.
Yeah, with the self-hatred thing of the Hulk, he wanted to get rid of him. He wanted to get rid of the Hulk. The best way to do it is to have his son do it. You know, that I could get behind. But then, yeah, like you said, they kind of turned Banner into this kind of asshole of a character where it doesn't fit. Like, I couldn't get past like the second issue of Incredible Hulk because of this. Because of this, I'm Bruce Banner and I'm crazy. I'm Doctor. You know, the Doctor, was it Moreau, or and I'm crazy now. It's like, what?
Of course, that would have some. It could possibly have something to do with Dr. Doom, maybe using his adamantium chainsaw incorrectly and screwing up part of Bruce Banner's brain. But yeah, we'll figure that out.
Yeah, I don't really necessarily have a problem with him going crazy. It's just that sort of sense that they were trying to say that because he's been removed, because he's not himself, there's a lot of explanation you could go why Banner was now crazy and trying to get the Hulk back, basically. That all kind of makes sense to me based on how he was separated, but that's not what they were making it seem. They were making it seem like that's how Banner was all along. It's just, and that's where I start to kind of rebel, going, no, that's not the Banner I ever knew.
But it always changes.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to go ahead and wrap this episode up. We'll be back next week for... We've only done a few of these in the past where we've kind of focused on one specific subject or topic. We did a Suicide Squad episode, we did this Avengers, and we do a Green Lantern episode. We'll have our Batman Dark Knight Rising episode later this year, so that'll be fun. But we're going to do a nice fun anime and manga episode next week because they are comic books and cartoons as well. So
I'm excited.
Yeah, it should be fun. Please don't stop listening.
To this podcast or to the next episode?
Well, yeah, don't stop after this next episode. If you only like white comics, you should keep listening because I think we may surprise you. There's a couple things I want to talk about that I think people will like. Are we
going to do some random picks?
And if you only not this week, and if you only like,
we're not even going to do it.
Nah, it's fine. I don't have anything prepared.
You never have anything prepared.
And if you're only like a hardcore otaku, don't listen to the episode because we're going to be wildly incorrect about a bunch of shit and talk blab totally incorrect stuff because we don't sit on 4chan all day and watch 200 streaming current shows on Crunchyroll. So there you go. That's an episode. Next week, episode 60. Getting up there in numbers. What do we got? www.geekbox.net is where you can find this episode and all our previous episodes, along with the other podcast that is on this lovely network we call Geekbox, which is the Geekbox, of course, which I'm on. The Comic Conspiracy, which is us. Brock's laughing at me because he's pointing something. He's doing something stuff.
Button.
Yes, the comedy button. I don't know what you were trying to do there.
Don't ever play charades with me.
No, I never will. Don't worry. You don't have to worry about that.
Suck.
The comedy button, and of course, Good Job Brain, our wonderful podcast about trivia, which I'd be horrible at because I know nothing about what I'm talking about, let alone random trivia, which I can't prepare for. So, And the don't forget the All Talk podcast, which is run by our community members. Anyone can join and be on that, which should be fun.
Aren't you going to be on that soon?
Possibly. Yes. I'm supposed to. They're doing a Twin Peaks podcast right now where they're separating out the shows and movie stuff to their own kind of podcast. So they're doing a Twin Peaks retrospective podcast right now, and I'm going to be on in a couple of weeks, I think, when they do the last episode. So
I'll have to check it out. I haven't actually gotten a chance to.
Yeah, it's pretty good. You can go to www.comicsconspiracy.biz. That's the site. Digital.comicsconspiracy.biz, where you can buy your digital comics now, including Marvel. Mm-hmm. There's a Deadpool sale right now. There's a Grant Morrison sale right now. They have all 100 issues of 100 Bullets on sale for 99 cents each. Can't recommend that high enough. Comixology is kicking some butt. They're throwing a ton of digital stuff out there. So if you like that stuff, go check that out. I should mention, because it's been a while since we mentioned it, we do mail order at the store. I have a bunch of subscribers that are listeners to the podcast. If you like to get books monthly, you get them from us. We're glad to ship them out. We are a small retail store. We can't compete with the crazy price discounts as places like Amazon and My Comic Shop and some of these online places can give. But you help support the podcast. Either if you buy them through Comixology, through the digital retail store on our site.
You have a couple people that buy just certain trades, they get on a trade run and buy trades through you.
Or if you're in town, you come visit us. You support the store, which supports the podcast, and that's we'll keep bringing you this as long as the store is here. Because if the store goes out of business, I'm basically going to be living in boxes of comic books because this is the only thing I know how to do. I don't even know how to podcast. I just know how to sell comic books, and barely at that. So, what else we got? Conspiratobrock.com. That's Brock's blog.
Let's check out the non-concerned parent letter, please.
Yes. The Infinite Long Box, which is Charlie's other podcast, which he's going home to record tonight, assuming you could stay off Diablo for a few hours.
Yes, we're going to be a little bit late getting it out this week just because one of our podcast members was sick when we normally record, so we'll be recording it tonight.
Is it the Diablo sickness? Where?
No, he even missed our D&D night because he was sick.
Wow. Yeah. He was playing Diablo.
I was on Diablo.
He defriended you and played Diablo. What else we got?
You still need to swing me that so I can try it out.
Diablo?
Yeah.
I have because I have the passes. Yeah, I can give you one of the codes because they have the the guest passes or whatever. Yeah. Cool. What else we got? Omar's blog, comicsandkind.com, and that's up there. You can check that out. Him and Toby
finally checked it out myself.
Yeah. We're too white for his world. For him and Toby's world, we're just too white for them. So we can't get into their world of hip hop and comics. So Omar doesn't let us white folks on there. So other than that, we're all on Twitter. Sure. I'm Ryan Higgins Ryan, Brock Sager, Insanity and Chaos. That's Charlie. Yep. Comics and Decline. That's Omar, and Toby XI. That's Toby. I think that's it. We'll be back next week for our anime and manga episode. It's probably going to be anime, and I have a manga to talk about, so that'll probably be it. So.
See, my problem is the fact that all the mangas I have are because I was into the anime.
It's not unfair. Probably a lot of people do that. So,
Does Usagi Yojimbo count?
Not a bad question. It's something I actually want to talk about next week.
See, this is why I'm fine to being on here, because I can ask those stupid questions.
It is a subject matter I've already thought about this that I want to broach. Things like Usagi Yojimbo for the American comic reader as a transition into trying something more similar to manga, because people seem to have some people find it hard to transition between American animation and anime and American comics and manga. They are somehow different things when they're really just the exact same thing. So, but that's a conversation for next week. Yeah, so that's it. We will catch everyone next week.
Adios, muchachos.
That's Spanish, not Japanese.